Welcome to episode 23 of Friends and Film, a podcast where we talk about the latest movie news and theatrical releases. I'm your host, Cooper Hood, at Coops_Hoops on Twitter. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Josh Straley, at StraleyStrong on Twitter. If you've not done so already and are new to the show, you can follow or subscribe to the podcast on Twitter, Facebook, SoundCloud, iTunes, YouTube, and Google Play by simply searching Friends and Film. Josh, what's going on?
Cooper, we are coming live to the audience in the middle of a torrential downpour today.
Yes, out of nowhere. I'm not liking it. It's been pretty nice here in Indiana recently. And
This is a super eerie podcast mood right now.
You may be able to hear rain dripping in the background. Hopefully not, but it is possible.
It's like the background to a horror movie right now. I
don't
know.
A little bit. But this week we're actually not doing a review, just because there was a lot of news that came out this week. And we asked you guys on Twitter what you guys wanted. We got 3 votes for 3 different results. One for a retro review, one for answering questions, and which nobody asked. So whoever you are, if you're going to say yes, then ask us a question. And then one for just news. So we decided to just do news today. Even though I did see Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows last night.
And how was it?
If you are expecting a dumb, funny movie, you'll probably enjoy it. I mean, I overall enjoyed it. Give it 3 ticket stubs out of 5, just because, not because the plot is amazing or there's great action or character moments. It was just like, that sounds like it'd be just a downright terrible movie. And as a film, it probably is. Or definitely is, not probably, but there's still... I found myself laughing throughout pretty much the whole thing, it seemed like, especially when the turtles were on screen.
So the entertainment value was good.
Yeah. So if you just want to go to the theater this week and have a dumb, CGI turtles doing goofy stuff, and you can laugh at Stephen Amell's voice, and
sure,
the ending is super funny for all the wrong reasons.
Okay.
So I mean, it's just a dumb, funny movie, and I enjoyed my time there in the theater, even though I didn't think I would.
Sure. Before we started recording, though, you were talking to me about the slew of comics that you just came into.
Yes, the last week has been a comic binge of sorts for me. I bought the Killing Joke hardcover, remastered version, which actually I saw it was the highest grossing graphic novel of this past year, of this year.
Yeah.
27 years after its release.
I never buy comics ever or graphic novels, but I bought that just coincidentally, just because how awesome it was.
Yeah. And so I read it. I really enjoyed that. And then I got into DC Rebirth this week. Read DC Rebirth 1 and then the first issues of Batman, Superman, Green Lantern, and Green Arrow and Green Lantern Corps. And then Civil War number 2 came out, or Civil War 2 number 1 came out. And that one, as somebody who prefers Marvel or knows a little bit more about Marvel at this point.
Yeah.
And after seeing Civil War, has a lot of there's some interesting similarities in the panels. That was pretty cool to read.
Sweet.
Yeah. But we're not going to talk about comics. If you have read DC Rebirth or you haven't, and you want to, but you want to hear some more opinions about it, I can recommend Total Geek All. One of their latest episodes, they did a full breakdown of DC Rebirth and kind of what it means for DC Comics. So you guys should check them out. Or Superhero News on YouTube. They did another segment where they broke down the whole comic and stuff. 2 great podcasts I can highly recommend. Some of my favorites, besides us, obviously, have a little bit of bias. But we're going to talk about the news all day today. Well, not all day, for our normal time length, about an hour or so. But there's a lot of stuff to get to, and we're going to start with the flyby. And our first bit of news comes for the James Bond franchise. And during an appearance at the Hay Festival, Sam Mendes, who previously directed the last 2 James Bond movies, Skyfall and Spectre, says he will not return with, quote, It was an incredible adventure. I loved every second of it, but I think it's time for somebody else.
Ooh, well, I mean, fits with the whole maybe restructuring the Bond stories, so not unexpected.
Yeah, I think this is kind of a no-brainer. I didn't really expect Sam Mendes to come back with whether it's Tom Hiddleston as the star or whoever it is. I just think it's time to get a breath of fresh air in there. I did not like Spectre, but I really enjoyed Skyfall. So I'm interested to see who they get next. We're probably a couple years away from figuring that out.
For sure.
Or at least seeing the finished product of whatever the next James Bond movie is. And really hard change of pace, really, because we're going to talk about Mary Poppins, something I don't really think we'd ever talk about on the podcast.
On the complete other side of the spectrum.
But Disney announced that Mary Poppins Returns, the sequel to the original Mary Poppins, is going to hit theaters in December 2018, which has officially Emily Blunt attached to star, as well as Lin-Manuel Miranda from Hamilton. Though you're a big fan of that.
I am a huge fan of the play. I mean, I haven't seen it, but the cast album, available like on Spotify, iTunes, all those places, is just amazing. And the footage I've seen of Lin-Manuel Miranda, like in it, he's phenomenal. So this is going to be great.
Yeah, and it is a direct sequel to the original Mary Poppins. I can't remember exactly how that's going to work. But I mean, when you have Emily Blunt attached, she's one of the best actresses in Hollywood right now. It also, with them getting a December 2018 release date, I always thought probably that the Han Solo movie in 2018 coming out in May would get, pushed to December like every other Star Wars movie is kind of recently released. The next Episode 7 was, and Rogue One and Episode 8 are both going to be in December. Are you thinking
they might not do that with the Mary Poppins dropping in December?
They're not going to cannibalize themselves. Disney's not dumb.
I mean, they could. I mean,
unless they also move Mary Poppins. But
right.
Mary Poppins and Han Solo aren't going to come out in the course of the 2 weeks of each other or something.
But don't you think that creates like an interesting dynamic of family movie, and depending on the tone of the Han Solo movie, a more adult-centered movie? Yeah,
I think there is a chance for I mean, they're definitely not the same audiences are going to go see both.
Sure.
So maybe they will put them out close to each other. Disney doesn't normally put movies that are theirs so close together. So I would be surprised, but I mean,
I agree. Especially
it wouldn't be the strangest
thing.
The
demographic with Star Wars is so massive.
Yeah, and we got another casting announcement for Kingsman: The Golden Circle, as Jeff Bridges revealed on his Twitter page with a picture that said, "The only golden circle I want vexing me is the one my glass leaves behind on the table." So Jeff Bridges is some I just imagine some really arrogant, constantly drinking, have a bottle of scotch next to him or something, and him being in that world, that cast is insane right now.
Oh my, they are stacked officially, if they weren't officially before.
Right. So that's really exciting news. Hopefully there's no details on who he's going to play besides that short quote. So whether he's helping Eggsy or is against him will be interesting to find out. And we got a new superhero casting announcement. And if you are listening, you probably are not thinking of the one that I'm going to talk about, because there's a big one. And then there's kind of another bigger. Then there was a really big one.
Yeah, for sure.
Which we'll talk about at the end of the show. But the one I'm talking to is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson announced on Facebook that he's going to play Doc Savage in Shane Black's Doc Savage movie.
Bam.
So The Rock just keeps doing more things. He seems really excited to do it. I don't know a lot about Doc Savage, but coming off The Nice Guys. I'm looking forward to see what Shane Black can do with it and what The Rock's going to be as a superhero, basically.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really great. Or Dwayne Johnson's been killing in all of his roles lately. Central Intelligence is going to be great, I think, and Jumanji, the new Fast and Furious, hopefully,
Mm-hmm.
and this with Shane Black at the helm, great.
Yeah. And then T.J. Miller, according to the Hollywood Reporter, is going to be joining Steven Spielberg's Ready Player One as in the role of an online troll, which seems just like the most perfect casting in the world.
It's even more perfect because his character in Silicon Valley is so great that it's just the two fit so well together.
I've not seen Silicon Valley. I only know him from Deadpool.
Yeah, if you ever have a chance to use HBO go directly to Silicon Valley.
Right. So yeah, that's pretty exciting. That cast again is getting really, really stacked. A lot of good people involved with that. And we're going to end the flyby with at MCM London Comic Con, Jesse Eisenberg confirmed that he will appear in Justice League, saying, quote, "I'm kind of in it. They just started filming Justice League, so I'm kind of like waiting for my crack at it." And then he continued, but yeah, I think so. I love it. I love everybody who's in it. So I don't expect Lex to have a big role in Justice League, which was formerly titled Justice League Part 1, because there's another Justice League coming out in like 2020 or something. But I think he should be a presence in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, he seemed like he knew a lot at the end, so you can't just like say, "Oh, he's in jail this entire movie."
Yeah, you can't just abandon him. It would have been like, I think hopefully it's something similar to like Daredevil season 2, where like Kingpin kind of comes back out of nowhere. Spoiler for Daredevil season 2, I guess. But I mean, go watch it. I mean, come on. If you haven't watched Daredevil season 2, what are you doing?
It's been 3 months. I think you can spoil it.
Yeah. That's the end of the flyby, though, and we're going to get to the rest of the news, and there's a lot of it. And we've got some big discussions saved for the end of the show, but we're going to start talking about Transformers: The Last Night, just the franchise everybody wants to see more of.
Yeah, I guess.
Michael Bay took to Instagram to put out a video teasing Megatron's return as the main villain in the 5th Transformers movie, which will be his 4th appearance as the villain.
I think the bigger revelation of all of this is, though, Michael Bay has an Instagram. I mean, okay, but I mean, how many times are they going to bring him back to kill him off? I don't know, but it's a classic villain, I guess.
I mean, I think Megatron was probably good in like the first one and maybe a little bit in 3. But I don't know. I'm not really looking forward to another Megatron. I'm not really looking forward to another Transformers movie anyways.
But maybe this one will be different.
It could be.
Maybe.
And maybe one of those reasons will be Anthony Hopkins, who has also joined the cast, according to the Transformers Twitter account.
That is a golden addition to any movie. So there's hope. Is there hope? Say there's hope. Cooper. Come on.
I don't know. I mean, Anthony Hopkins has been in really good movies. He's been in really bad movies. So this could be something where, you know, Michael Bay could be saying, okay, like I know these last ones have not been very good. I'm getting these good actors in here so we can elevate the talent, elevate the script, elevate the story and everything. Or he could just be approaching Anthony Hopkins saying, "Hey, listen, I know you have a small role in Thor Ragnarok. You don't have a lot to do in there. Why don't you come be a bad guy in Transformers 5? Come in for a week and do voiceover for one of the robots." I mean, I don't know what he's gonna do. I mean, since he is Odin, all I want him to be is like a ruler of something in the Transformers world. So whether like people want it to be like Rom, the Space Knight, to get in there and have him, I don't know. Anthony Hopkins has a great voice, so I think he probably makes more sense as like a voice role instead of like actually like being on set and stuff. Unless he's like, I don't know, some corrupt business owner. I don't know.
Their business owners own Transformers?
I don't know.
That'd be pretty cool. Maybe he like recreates the Transformers.
I mean,
as
there's a
evil
lot of weird
slaves.
stuff going on in the Transformers
I
franchise.
mean, I guess you could rebuild Megatron, so I don't know why I was
Sure.
upset. But
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see if Anthony Hopkins does anything worthwhile in it or not.
Great casting addition. That's all I'm saying.
He is a great actor, but his involvement does not make me any more excited for Transformers 5.
Yeah, me neither.
Because
really.
it is Transformers 5.
How about a sequel that we're all looking forward to?
Yeah, I know a long time ago, well, not a long time ago, because this podcast isn't that old, but
right.
like a month or two ago, I gave my pitch for Channing Tatum to join the franchise, and I want Zac Efron and Tatum to be in it and team up and be a duo. I don't know. Okay, I just have weird ambitions for Pitch Perfect 3, which is what I'm talking about. And unfortunately, I was really looking forward to seeing that next year, and being right in the middle of the summer where the Pitch Perfect 2 did really well. It went up against Mad Max Fury Road and
beat it out.
Killed it.
Yeah.
So not saying it's a better movie because it's not, but Pitch Perfect 2 I really enjoyed it. And now they've pushed back the third installment from July 21st, 2017 to December 22nd.
Oh.
Which, similar to Mary Poppins, is going to put it like coming out a couple of days after Star Wars 8.
Well, I mean,
which is again like
why would
kind of
anyone
the
want to
same.
do that?
Like it's kind of the same argument. Like it's the other like audience basically.
Yeah, definitely.
But at the same time, I don't like to see movies like Pitch Perfect is a summer movie to me. Like I don't want to see it go up against Star Wars, where I'm sure I'm going to want to see Star Wars 8 multiple times in theaters, and then Pitch Perfect 3 could be one of those movies where, oh yeah, that was in theaters. Shoot.
Sure, like Sisters was last year,
Yeah.
because I wanted to see that. And Polar Tina Fey, but didn't get to it at all.
It's just Star Wars.
Yeah, Star Wars, of course. Maybe that's a place. You think there's any chance that's a placeholder date until they get the project back on track?
I don't know. I mean, maybe, but I don't think they're going to move it back up. If anything, I think it just gets pushed farther. And I don't want that either.
Oh, yeah, and I say back on track
because Variety has reported that Elizabeth Banks, who directed the second one and was on under contract to do the third, is not going to do that. In fact, she has left the project. She said, as the time we were recording today, that it's for family reasons and stuff, and because she already has a pretty packed schedule, so you can't fault her for it. But if you are a fan of her doing the commentaries of the performance, as much as I am, she will be returning as a cast member at least. So Gail will be back, but she will not be. Banks will not be directing the third installment.
all bad news.
Yeah.
I mean, well, at least it's not. That's not worse that she's not showing up in the movie at all, or else that would just
that'd be sad.
drop it straight. So
because I love that duo that
absolutely
announces the stuff. They're
there's
hilarious.
kicking those movies off with that. I immediately knew like this movie's gonna be great.
Yep. Do you have, this is on the spot, but do you have anybody who you could imagine directing the third one?
Yes, but there's no way she would do it.
Okay.
Tina Fey. I just think there's an opening to shape the Pitch Perfect into a little bit different way, and I think she could do it. I have a love of obsession with Tina Fey and all of her movies and comedy, so
that would be interesting.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know how I'd feel about Tina Fey.
I know you're
Pitch
not
Perfect movie.
You're not a huge fan of her after you saw the movie that she was in. That's
Whiskey Tango Foxtrot.
Yes, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot.
That has nothing to do with my. I like Tina Fey.
Sure,
I think
just the movie was
funny.
bad.
I just don't think the movie is good.
Fair enough.
Nothing against her. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really have anybody in mind that I was like, oh, like this person should replace as director.
Sure.
Unless maybe Anna Kendrick wants to give it a shot.
She could step up and do some directing
I
jobs.
wouldn't be upset with that. I mean, she's been doing a lot of like kind of indie movies and stuff. And the reason I want Zac Efron, and I think he actually could be in it, is because her and what's the other guy?
I don't
that's
know
in Pitch
Bumper's
Perfect?
name.
Yeah, but Bumper. Her and Bumper are doing a movie with Audrey Plaza and Zac Efron. Mike and Davey Wedding Dates comes out this summer. And I follow Anna Kendrick on Instagram, and I see her hanging out with Zac Efron. Seems like a lot. It could just be because of press tour and stuff.
Sure.
But I think they have a pretty good relationship. And
Adam Devine.
Yeah, Adam Devine. So I think that would be a really fun. And especially it'd be so funny to see him do a musical after High School Musical.
Yes, exactly. Kind of close out that loop of his whole, his career.
Yeah,
right
have him go from high school to like a post-collegiate singing competition or something,
Mm-hmm.
Or my idea of an underground singing dance competition thing. I mean, he's a talented guy. I think he could do it. But yeah, I don't know. It's not good news for Pitch Perfect 3, but I think whenever it comes out, I'll still probably be excited for it.
Totally.
But that is not the only movie that lost a director this week. As Deadline revealed that Sicario, the sequel to Sicario, which was greenlit earlier this year,
Mm-hmm.
I believe. Before we get to some of the bad news, it got an official title of Soldado, which is Spanish for soldier, as far as I've heard.
Took 2 years of Spanish, and I didn't know that.
I took 4 semesters, and I didn't know that. So.
Okay, so we're on good terms here.
Yeah,
Good
but some of the bad news, Emily Blunt will not be returning as previously reported. And then director Denis Villeneuve is also not returning, probably because of he's tied up with Blade Runner 2 right now. But Deadline is reporting that instead they're looking at Stefano Sollima to replace Villeneuve. And they once again confirmed that Benicio del Toro and Josh Brolin will return. So some good news, some bad news. Are you looking? How does this make you feel about Soldado?
Obviously, the loss of Emily Blunt in any project is bad, but I like Sicario so much. It had the Breaking Bad feel to it throughout the entire thing. That even if she's not there, I still think that it's going to be a great movie. I'm not familiar with any of the new director's work, but I feel like it's got such a great cast to it that it would be hard to screw up no matter what. Yeah,
I'm not familiar with Solima's work either, but one of the big reasons Sicario worked is Emily Blunt, the lead, Villeneuve, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, honestly.
Sure,
I pronounce it.
You got it.
Villeneuve, Villanueva. I don't know. But his directing style with it, and then his constant cinematographer is Roger Deakins,
Mm-hmm.
I believe. So that movie just looks awesome, just visually and everything. And the composer, same thing. I mean, Sicario was an amazingly great film. So that the thought of that team not returning is not good for my excitement. For the
unsettling.
Sequel. Yeah, it does. I would have been super excited for this movie, even if Emily Blunt was returning, but Villanueva and the rest of his crew were, along with Del Toro and Brolin. I would be ecstatic for a sequel.
Okay.
Or it's a prequel, whatever it is. But as long as they have a good story to tell, revolving around Del Toro's character, and Brolin like helping him or whatever the case may be, I still think it has the potential to be really good, but I have hesitations towards it now, which I wouldn't have had before.
Unless something completely turns you off to it, though, you're probably still sold on it, right?
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to wait to see. I mean, if Sollima gets it, what some of the story plots may be, a trailer and stuff. But I mean, as a concept, I don't think Sicario needs a sequel. Especially, I mean, Emily Blunt returning would have been weird because of just how her character is left at the end of the movie.
Yeah, the whole arc.
But Del Toro and Brolin, I can see each of their characters having another film to explore kind of the grittier, darker, like kind of complicated side of the law and whatnot. And seeing Del Toro continue to be like a vigilante anti-hero.
Yeah.
I don't know how you describe him really. I mean, he's a bad guy, but he's not. I mean, I don't know.
No, that was a good way to say it.
So yeah, there's reasons to be excited for Soldado, but there's also reasons not to be. Not the best news for that sequel, but a franchise that did get some pretty good news, I would say.
Yeah.
Is the Ocean's 11 reboot. The Playlist has reported that Cate Blanchett is being eyed for the Brad Pitt role.
What?
So,
dude,
that's crazy.
Shut up.
Cate Blanchett is insanely great actress. She's gonna be, I mean, Oscar contender all the time. She was in Carol last year. She's just announced to be in Thor Ragnarok. And then seeing her do this along with Sandra Bullock's already attached. And Jennifer Lawrence is previously attached, but the Playlist is reporting that might not happen anymore because of some scheduling conflicts, which I don't know if that revolves around Blanchett's schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And they're being like, okay, we want Blanchett and we want Jennifer.
Yeah.
Which could be a possibility. But either way, if Jennifer Lawrence is not on it or if she is, that's going to be a property that a lot of people want to get into.
If they can get Bullock, Blanchett, and Lawrence in the same set for this movie, this could easily shoot up to be like top 2 of my most anticipated
whenever it comes out.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
And if you're wondering, because I just keep referring to it, Ocean's 11 reboot or remake, whatever it is,
mm-hmm.
The Playlist also reported that it has a possible title, Ocean's Ocho, which is interesting. The thought would be that it probably revolves that they would make it Ocean's Ocho because it would be 8 females as the team. I don't know why you wouldn't just call it Ocean's 8 unless it also revolves around like something in Mexico or if you call it Ocean's Ocho, something Mexican has to be involved.
Yeah,
right.
It rolls off the tongue though when you say
it
Ocean's
does.
Ocho or Ocean's Ocho.
But
say
like
that 5 times fast.
You have to have. I would assume as an outsider of this whole process,
sure.
If you're an executive and you have a movie called Ocean's Ocho,
mm-hmm.
you should probably get some Hispanic actresses involved.
Sure.
Otherwise, it would just seem weird with the name. Personally, that's how I kind of feel about it. But I have no idea I think there's going to be a lot of rumors if this turns out to be true about who's going to be interested to join. I keep saying Emma Stone should be in this movie because I think she fits the bill perfectly. Kristen Wiig would be a great addition because you need a Sandra Bullock is not really a comedian, even though I think she's kind of tried to be in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But Kristen Wiig's hilarious. Get her in there.
American Ferrera.
Sure. If you want to get a Latina, get Salma Hayek.
Oh yeah.
That would be interesting. Or get Gina Rodriguez. That's actually what I would say she would be in it. She's currently in Jane the Virgin.
That's what I was just trying to think of.
She's going to be in Deepwater Horizon later this year. She was up for the new female lead in Star Wars 8. And her name keeps popping up for Star Wars stuff. So I think she's one of those people who keeps coming up. So I don't know. There's a lot of interesting possibilities with that movie. And even though I don't think they have to call it Oceans,
no,
they could have it just be its own new franchise. I think there's a lot of Cate Blanchett definitely makes me more excited for Ocean's Ocho.
You're finally coming around. I'm so happy for you.
Yes. And another addition that made me way more excited for a property. We're going to give a little bit of backstory before we get to it. But BatmanNews.com was doing some snooping around on Twitter over the last weekend. And they saw that director Rick Famuyiwa had gone on a following spree and followed like Gal Gadot, Ben Affleck, Jeff Johns, like everybody involved with the DCEU. And then speculation started rising. Oh, like, is he like up for director? Like, is he going to direct like Cyborg, Green Lantern Corps? Like, what is it? Neither of those, because Deadline has revealed that Famuyiwa is actually going to direct The Flash. If you're not familiar with Famuyiwa, he directed Dope, which is a movie that came out last year. It's on Netflix currently. Go watch it. I highly recommend it. It's incredibly fun and funny and charming, and a lot of great adjectives you can throw its way. It's rated R, so it's not for everybody. It revolves around a kid who gets involved with this drug scheme, and he's trying to get rid of these drugs. But it's a really funny adventure. Great cast. But Famuyiwa doing The Flash, I think, just makes that movie. It's my most anticipated DCEU movie, just because of his involvement. Ezra Miller as Barry Allen. I think that's a great duo and a much bigger upgrade over Seth Grahame-Smith, who had never directed anything before.
It's really starting to feel like a more personal teenage movie to me. With just putting those two elements together. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I think I like Batman more, just to say it flatly. But if DC tries to make this movie a little bit more touchy-feely than Batman vs. Superman was, these are two awesome elements, especially Ezra Miller in the role.
I think it's going to be a lot more like upbeat and fun. Flash is just a character that's just like, he's an electric character.
Right.
Just like his personality, as well as just the cool things you can do with the action stuff. I think it's going to be, Flash's scene in BVS was really confusing. But I think his scenes in Justice League will be really cool. And probably those are the things I'm looking forward to the most. I think Flash is probably going to be outside of maybe Batman, because Ben Affleck's Batman was so good in BVS. But Ezra Miller as Barry Allen could be a very close second. But yeah,
they've got a threshold to beat. They've got to beat Quicksilver in terms of how cool can you make super speed.
See, I think they're going to do it a little differently with like where Quicksilver is. I think it's going to be kind of more towards the Quicksilver in Age of Ultron, where instead of watching like it in slow-mo like you do in the X-Men movies, where it's him moving at like human speed,
sure,
and everything else is being super slow, it's going to be everything next to him just looking like a blur, and then you can see kind of the ramifications of what he's doing on a larger, picture and stuff. But they definitely do have stuff to live up to, because
but like you were saying though, it opens up the door to awesome visual effects.
Yeah, definitely. And he will first appeared in BVS, but he'll actually appear in Justice League as a character, not just a cameo. And some rumors started floating around this week about Justice League being retitled. The name Justice League is a pretty well-known name. If you say Justice League, people know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But Heroic Hollywood reported that DC was considering adding a subtitle to the movie, with possibilities including Justice League United, or Justice League Angels and Demons, or Gods Among Us, or Gods Among Men. This was quickly debunked by Jeff Johns, the head of the DCEU, when he went to Twitter and said, hey, this isn't true. I know there's reports out there, but the title is Justice League. which I'm very happy about.
Yeah, same here. Those titles kind of sound a little bit dumb to me. I mean,
if you had to choose one,
probably United. But at the same time, I wouldn't even make that the first movie. I'd make that the second movie.
Okay.
Kind of like they have to figure out how to work together in part one or the first Justice League, and then unite them in the second one.
Okay.
But that's me.
Yeah, I mean, I think United definitely sounds like the best, but I don't think they're gonna. I think the way DC is progressing their universe, they're gonna take the anti-Avengers solo movie approach, where in the Avengers, the first half of that movie is a lot of recruiting and setting up, like, oh, like these are all, Justice League, like these are all you guys are all possible candidates to join the Avengers Initiative, and then eventually Loki comes and then they become Avengers as a team. Whereas I feel like Justice League is going to be a lot less of that, and maybe the first 30 minutes or so is like recruiting and being like, hey, Aquaman, come join us. And then next thing you know, it's like, we're a team and we're stopping some threat, and then all of a sudden Steppenwolf comes out of nowhere and you're like, oh crap, Steppenwolf.
Sure.
So I don't know. That's kind of what I'm thinking with Justice League. It's obviously way early to even, try to guess what the plot is. I mean, some people say they started filming. Some people say they haven't. We have not had an announcement of any sorts from DC saying, hey, Justice League started filming. So I don't know. There's been a lot of changes in that company. But I am happy that it is just Justice League, because Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice is too long of a title.
Yeah, for sure.
I didn't need Justice League Gods Among Men or Justice League blah, 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 blah.
When you have to shorten your title down to 2 3-letter acronyms, you need to rethink some things.
Yeah.
BVS,
same
DOJ.
with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows.
Right.
It's too long. Just make it TMNT, whatever.
Sure.
Okay, I don't need Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles spelled out. Everybody knows what TMNT
Does it mean like
for.
Star Wars? Do we have to say the same thing for Star Wars then? Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens?
I don't say. I mean, I call it either Star Wars Episode 7 or Star Wars The Force Awakens.
That's true. Real fans know that you shorten down all the movies to Star Wars, Empire, Jedi.
So what is 7? Star Wars Force?
I don't know. I think you just call it Force or TFA. TFA?
TFA, sure.
There we go.
I've seen that abbreviation before. We got really off topic there.
I know.
With how to, talk about movie titles.
Back to DC.
And yeah, some movies that don't have titles, that DC is apparently trying to find dates for. Heroic Hollywood in the same report reported that DC is looking to claim dates of October 2nd, 2020, April 16th, 2021, July 2nd, 2021, and November 5th, 2021. So 4 more dates. A lot of them. And their current, if this release calendar holds true, after only starting in 2018, they'll be doing 3 movies a year, which is a year after Marvel does 3 movies a year. So lots of superhero movies coming out in the next couple of years. Obviously, it's hard to be like, oh, like should they actually be claiming these dates? I mean, DC hasn't officially claimed these dates. These are all rumors. But if they are actually like looking to, claim these dates, then actually means they hopefully have some sort of a plan, which is good news.
Definitely. Because all appearances the last few weeks or past few months has been no plan.
Yeah. It's been like, oh, you guys like this character? Here's a spin-off movie of that character.
Sounds like they have 20 scripts, but nothing greenlit yet.
Yeah. So it's hard to say, what those movies could be. Obviously, I mean, the first one of those rumored dates comes right after Green Lantern Corps, and about a year and a couple of months after Justice League Part 2. So just some of the projects they have in development, just throwing them off for you guys. The Batman solo movie, Booster Gold, Suicide Squad 2, Harley Quinn-led film, Joker and Boomerang spinoff movies, Lobo, and possibly Justice League Dark is a script they've had for a long time in development. if we have to wait till 2020 for a Batman solo movie, I won't be able to handle that. That should be their top priority right now. Oh, and a Man of Steel 2. I'm sure that's being developed. As far as what these dates could be, Suicide Squad sequel, I'm sure is one of them.
Yeah.
Probably the first one.
I would think so.
And then April 2021, throw in, I don't even know, give me Man of Steel 2.
You think they'd still go through with a Man of Steel 2?
I mean, you can't not have a Superman sequel.
Oh, man, I don't know. I mean, not that. Okay.
And then July, let's do Booster Gold as a summer fun cop movie type thing. And then November 2021, a movie we have no idea is even in development right now. Just some unknown property. If I do
the Harley Quinn spinoff,
that might be a little soon between that and Suicide Squad 2. Maybe Lobo. Throw the Lobo movie in there in November. Closer to Halloween. Get a little edgier and stuff. Do you have any ideas on what those could be?
To be honest with you, I think I nodded along and agree with everything you said, mainly because I don't have too much knowledge of what DC's entire arsenal is. But
maybe a Green Arrow movie.
Do you think? I mean, is Green Arrow even in development? I mean, do they even have a casting for him?
No. There's no movement on a Green Arrow movie. A lot of people want Matt Damon as Green Arrow because he's best friends with Ben Affleck, and he could probably actually get him to be a superhero. And if you can get like a Bourne-esque Green Arrow, I mean, come on, who doesn't want to see that?
The cool thing about that is too. I mean, yeah, you have Matt Damon, who, Green Arrow and Batman are best friends. Like that's a good thing to put together.
Yeah. So that's the end of DC talk. We're going to talk about Marvel
something I know
for a little bit.
Something about, thankfully.
Yeah, they have a longer history that we can look back on and stuff. And next year, they're going to kick off the 2017 summer movie time, I guess, for Marvel with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And there's been a lot of rumors on who the villain could be. Is it Kurt Russell's character? Is Ego the Living Planet the villain? Is all these rumors. And according to the latest report, which could be a spoiler, so I will give you guys a warning there. But as we continue with the story, Joe Blow is reporting that Elizabeth Debicki, who is already confirmed as a cast member, and was previously reported to be playing a character named Aisha, will be the main villain, which is pretty cool. If you don't know who Aisha is, she has a lot of different names in the comics. One of them is simply Her, because she was basically made by a separate group of called the Enclave, which are responsible for the creation of Adam Warlock, also known as him. And this makes me really, really think that at one point Adam Warlock was the villain of this movie, because there were rumors of Matthew McConaughey being looked at for the main villain, that he passed on it even. And it wasn't the same role as Kurt Russell. It wasn't the same role as anybody else who's on the cast. So I think they probably, I could imagine Marvel being like, hey, we should make Adam Warlock be the villain, and James Gunn say, I don't really want Adam Warlock. Can I do Aisha? They're like, sure, you can do Aisha and just lay the seeds for Adam Warlock's origin, basically, so that way we can introduce him in Infinity War and be like, oh, Aisha? Remember Aisha, the villain? He's the male version, basically, but more powerful. So do you like the thought of Debicki being the villain of Guardians of the Galaxy?
Every time someone mentions JoeBlow.com, I laugh. I don't know why, but yeah, that's it. The whole origin around them, like created by scientists to be like the perfect being.
Yeah,
she's the second iteration.
Mm-hmm.
So they
Adam Warlock came first, and then he gets away. Or he doesn't get away. He just leaves because he's like, you guys can't control me. And then they're like, okay, well, we need somebody else, so let's make a female version. And that's where Aisha comes in.
Right. And then like their whole thing is to like be together to create like perfect society.
Yeah.
So they come in to her escaping and then like you said, just so it creates the breadcrumb trail to lead up to the more powerful version, either help or hindrance. Probably hindrance, right?
He would probably be a hindrance at first, but I mean, ultimately, Adam Warlock is probably like the only person that can actually stop Thanos.
Ooh, snap.
So you have to get him. And a lot of in the comics, he has one of the Infinity Stones as the source of his power, basically. Mm-hmm. Similar to Vision, he has it in his forehead.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, they'll have to do a similar thing with Vision and rip it out of his head. I don't think they'll do that with Adam Warlock.
Yeah.
They'll find a way around it.
Okay.
But I really want Warlock, so hopefully this gives me a better chance of seeing him. And I want McConaughey as Warlock, unless he gets Norman Osborn, and that'll be okay. And then if he gets Norman Osborn and we need Adam Warlock, give me Jake Gyllenhaal, and I'll be happy.
That's really good. It's great too, because when you think Matthew McConaughey and like, hey, he did those romantic comedy series, mm-hmm. You know, he's already set himself in the mind of like the perfect man type deal. So I think that's a great role for him to grab.
Yeah, I mean,
if they can get him.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, that's a lot of ifs, but I mean, Debicki, I'm a big fan. She's on The Night Manager with Hiddleston, so she has the Marvel connection there. She was in The Man from U.N.C.L.E. as the villain of that movie, Great Gatsby. She's a really talented actress, and seeing her play the villain in a large, big budget, superhero movie would be pretty cool. Totally. Especially if she's like actually like looks the way like she's kind of a weird looking character. Not a weird looking character. She's just kind of like she's very gold and stuff. So I think it'll be really fun. If this proves to be true, and Joe Blow's had a pretty decent track record recently mm-hmm. with Marvel scoops, so I tend to believe them. And they gave a couple of tidbits about Thor Ragnarok. Comes out later that year. Again, possible spoiler warning. It's not anything major. It's stuff we've kind of speculated on before, but according to their sources, Jeff Goldblum's Grandmaster will be the one in charge of the gladiator-style matches that Hulk and Thor will take part in, which we speculated on before, I believe. If not, it was off record, or off the podcast.
No, I think it was on the podcast. Okay,
yeah, good. So I have something to look back on. Right, and say, hey, I was smart.
Yeah.
And that's kind of going to take ties to the Planet Hulk storyline, or it's going to make it feel like that for at least part of the movie. He's going to have, the armor and whatnot. They talked about some of the characters' looks, like Thor's going to get his head shaved. They're going to change the look of Valkyrie. For Tessa Thompson's going to wear like war paint and stuff. But once they escape this portion of the movie and they're like, okay, we need to go stop Hela, they set out to, what Joe Blow described, find the, quote, ultimate weapon. So I don't know what that's going to be.
Then the quote goes on to reset the universe.
Yeah, which I don't think that'll happen.
Okay, well, not like reset in terms of time, but any chance that Loki is basically destroying Asgard when we show up to this Thor movie and Hela takes over and then Thor's banished and then they work their way back up to, quote, reset the universe? Maybe? Or do you think it's more of an epic ending type deal?
I think it's more of an epic ending. There's been other reports out there about some of the plot details about the movie and how it could end and, some of the stuff. I think I might have an idea of what the ultimate weapon could be, and not necessarily be a weapon, but maybe Valkyrie's the ultimate weapon.
Ooh.
Because she's from Valhalla, and she has the ability to basically bring people back from the dead, or let them live out as dead people, basically. I don't know.
Sure.
It's kind of confusing, but maybe that resets the universe because it can bring back, Frigga, I don't know how to pronounce her name.
Yeah.
And then, or other people rumored to die in the film, which I won't spoil here. And, who knows?
Frigga, Thor's mom.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Just clarifying that for everybody.
Yeah, who died in Thor, The Dark World. She's not going to die in Thor Ragnarok. She's already dead.
Right.
So it could bring back a lot of interesting possibilities, which, I think we talked about before on the podcast, but just... I don't want to get into it again.
Yeah, you mentioned something along the lines of Idris Elba's character,
Heimdall.
Thank you. Dying and then possibly coming back.
Yeah.
That's what we talked about.
Yeah, so I think Heimdall is a very powerful character who hasn't been really shown that power in the movies so far. So if their search to find Valkyrie and be like, hey, we need you to help us take back Asgard, and we need the help of all these fallen Asgardians and all these other types of, I don't even know who else, all these alien races and anybody who's died. Bring back, get Quicksilver in there. I don't know. He's dead, so, who knows? The possibilities are endless. But I'm pretty excited for that movie. And the final bit of Marvel news we got is some casting for Captain Marvel, potentially.
Most exciting news, I think, of everything.
Yeah. This is some really exciting news, and while it looks like this will be a confirmed thing, and all signs point to this being something that's going to be confirmed in a couple of weeks, if hopefully less. But Variety has reported that Brie Larson is currently the front runner to play Carol Danvers, aka Captain Marvel. She is said to be the favorite, and is in early talks and leaning towards taking the part. If you follow me on Twitter and my alternate account, where I write for MCUexchange.com, I wrote up the news when it broke. I wrote a one shot explaining why I think Brie Larson's the perfect choice for Captain Marvel. So obviously I'm on board for this. Are you?
Totally, especially because I literally just finished watching The Room.
What you watched? Room,
right? Which is different than The Room.
Yes,
thank you.
Very different.
Okay. So I just finished watching The Room the day before this broke, and I was like, "How did I not even think about this?" We were thinking, Emily Blunt, Charlize Theron, and I think there was a third, but this is just it's an instant yes.
Yeah,
and I can't believe I never thought of it.
It was something that I'd always hoped that it would be like Brie Larson or Jennifer Lawrence if she got out of the X-Men contract.
Yeah.
If they went young.
Totally.
But all kind of rumors and indications up to that point, or previously, had all been about them going for more experienced actors, so they could actually be, because Carol Danvers is in the Air Force, she is a captain at points. She's a sergeant or a lieutenant or she has other titles throughout, but you need somebody with life experience to get that high and climb the ranks in the military. So having Larson, who's only 26, she'll be 29 by the time her movie comes out, as opposed to Emily Blunt and Theron. They'd be Emily Blunt would be in her late 30s, Theron would be in her mid 40s. Katee Sackhoff was a popular choice. I never got behind that movement. But this is fantastic news. And she's going to appear in Avengers Infinity War, whether it be part 1 or part 2, or whatever they're going to be titled when they get retitled.
Right.
And then Forbes mentioned that they think she might appear as well in Ant-Man and the Wasp, which really changes the dynamics of what that movie could be.
That movie could be the best movie ever.
If somebody as powerful as Carol Danvers gets involved, I have no idea what the scope of that movie is then.
We know that we don't know the scope of it, but we know that it's going to be super spy. She could be their escort into Soviet territory or
maybe,
Russian.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness! I just got way more excited for that sequel.
So far, Captain Marvel does not have a director, but with Brie Larson on board, I'm sure that will happen quickly. And the Hollywood Reporter revealed 2 contenders. currently. They are hearing one being Jennifer Kent, who's best known for The Babadook, and the other is Nikki Caro, best known for McFarland USA and a movie called The Whale or Whale Watcher or something to do with whales. I don't know. I haven't seen any of either of these girls' movies, so I'm not familiar with either. Nikki Caro did McFarland USA for Disney.
Yeah,
I think she kind of has the leg up.
And it was pretty good. Kevin Costner is gold.
So she's probably the one I would lean towards if I had to, guess who Disney would choose. But they could go with somebody else totally out of left field. And
the script writers of this film are on point too. The Inside Out, like one of my favorite Disney Pixar movies of all time. Meg
LaFoe.
LaFoe, thank you. I was going to butcher that. And Nicole Perlman.
Yeah,
so,
who did Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
She did the first draft of Guardians of the Galaxy, and James Gunn rewrote it. But, yeah, I think, Captain Marvel is being set up currently to be... all Marvel movies, in my opinion, are looking fantastic.
Sure.
I'm trying not to be biased on that, but, it's... They have a track record to back it up, and it's not like they've made a bunch of crappy movies and it's like, oh well, this next one's going to be good. It's like, no, they've made some really good movies, some of my favorite movies of all time, and I'm invested and I'm ready, and hopefully DC can build that up too in the future. But another franchise, and our last topic of the day that has a lot of fans behind it, definitely you,
definitely
me as well, is the Star Wars franchise. And if you've been following the movie news at all this week, you have probably read or seen about 100 stories floating around online about Rogue One reshoots, and a lot of conflicting details, and it's hard to know what's right, what's wrong, but there's a lot.
Buckle your seatbelts. We're about to squash some rumors here about my favorite franchise ever.
Yeah, we're gonna get into it. This I have no idea how long this is gonna go, but
I don't either. But take us away, man.
Okay, so this all started. Let's see, this would have been...
May 30th is what earliest I've got.
Okay, which would have been on Monday. So over last weekend is when these rumors started circulating. From Page 6 was the original source that they were reporting that some executives at Disney had seen an early cut of the film and that they did not like it. And as a result, they were ordering even more reshoots than were originally planned. And I will stop there briefly because reshoots are scheduled for every big movie. Captain America Civil War had it, BVS had it, Star Wars 7 had it, Suicide Squad has them. Any big budget movie you can think of has reshoots, pickups, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, any movie over like $75 million just guarantees reshoots.
Yeah. And that's, just to, change stuff once you see a cut of the film, fix things, maybe change a line of dialogue, whatever it may be. And according to the Page 6 report, the reshoots were scheduled to take place between 4 and 6 weeks because the executives wanted it to have more of a Star Wars tone because it is currently, as it is made, going to end about 10 minutes before A New Hope starts. Which I think is really exciting. But I do also want the war film that I've been kind of promised with Rogue One. This was then followed up with a report by Making Star Wars, a site that, as you can tell, very closely follows Star Wars.
Yeah, they kill it on the daily.
Yeah. So if you want daily Star Wars news, you should go and check them out, and check out StarWarsNews.net. It's another great site for all your Star Wars news. But Making Star Wars reported that kind of made it sound even worse because they said that they are going to reshoot 40% of the film, and that it could take up to 8 weeks to do it. The reasoning they had heard behind it was Christopher McQuarrie, who was already announced and attached as doing a rewrite of the script. His rewrite was not done when the film started shooting, so they're going to go back and shoot the scenes that are basically different in his film and shoot his versions. That he would be on set to make sure him and Gareth Edwards are on the same page. Some people they said some people told him that J.J. Abrams was going to be on set to like oversee everything. So I mean, those don't sound good.
No.
Christopher McQuarrie then took to his Twitter to deny that he was going to be involved with the reshoots. He was like, I did write a script at one point, but I am not going to be on set for reshoots of this movie. And then a lot of conflicting reports about, why this is happening and all this stuff. And it's just like, he said, she said type things.
The floodgates opened until about yesterday.
Yeah. And then EW kind of put they closed the dam.
Yeah, that's
so to speak.
That's the best way to say it.
And they said, okay, the reshoots are happening, which is not a surprise to anybody.
Right.
If reshoots weren't happening, the people at Disney would be surprised.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, but they said that the reshoots will be between 4 and 5 weeks, and that they're not reshooting 40% of the movie. In fact, they're not filming a lot of big action things either, because they said one source told them, quote, "It's a lot of talking in cockpits." So it's a lot of them on their journey there or in the heat of battle, but it's not actually the battle sequences. It's them talking to each other and whatnot. So then the reason for the lengthy reshoot period, because 4 to 5 weeks is still a long time to do reshoots.
Yeah, it's a whole month.
Yeah, is because of the actor schedules. This is a large cast. They are well-known actors and actresses, and it's hard to schedule all of them to be there on the same day.
Totally.
And originally these reshoots were supposed to happen early in the year, but then because they were still trying to figure out what they wanted to change, they pushed it back, which is what has made this process a little more difficult. And they've finished up by quoting one of their sources saying, "The movie is very different than The Force Awakens, and that's intentional. It's a war film," kind of squashing those previous reports that, we are trying to make this feel like Star Wars, but we're not going to make it a war film.
Yeah.
So after all that, what's your takeaway?
The takeaway is this: Gareth Edwards is delivering on the promise of creating a Star Wars movie that is different, that is unlike anything we've seen so far. It's what's going to carry these anthology movies into the future. And that's basically what you take away from all of that, is that Gareth Edwards is keeping his movie how it is. I know there was a ton of elaboration on that. It was tested poorly. Disney executives didn't like it. No, like 90% of what we just said turned out not to be true.
Yeah. And
the fact of the matter is, reshoots are happening to just add a little bit more emotional depth to characters, and that's about it. And I'm restraining myself from going on a rant about anonymous sources and things like that and running with it, but it has a happy ending, and the happy ending is Gareth Edwards gets to make the movie that he wanted to make and that I wanted to see.
So you are not worried about this movie?
I was worried after I read the Page 6 and Screen Rant articles, but after that, after I started seeing some of the details kind of line up, and then an EW article, as soon as I saw that it's going to be a grittier Star Wars movie, as a war film, everything was pretty much smoothed over and covered for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I was worried about them making it a lighter, funner movie, because that's what those episodes are for. Mm-hmm. Those are for the broad audience. These are what I told you a month ago that was going to be the difference between Disney's Marvel franchise and Star Wars franchise. Yeah. And to see them the idea of them almost going back on that promise was infuriating.
Yeah.
But, voila.
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this whole thing because
do you have doubts now?
a little bit.
Do you not believe the EW article?
I think EW is a well-respected site. They break a lot of things, but they are closely tied to the studios. And it's the same thing can be said about the trades. So it's hard for me to believe that all of the and credit Page Six where they're due. They were the ones that broke Alden Ehrenreich as Han Solo, so they know somebody. Or they know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody or something that is connected to Star Wars. So while I don't think that it is that bad, there's a little bit of doubt in my mind that this movie is actually going to be great. I never expected it to be like, I love the Force Awakens, and I never thought of like, okay, well, this is going to be like my second favorite Star Wars movie of all time or my favorite Star Wars movie of all time. I was expecting a really good and enjoyable movie that was set in the Star Wars universe, a war film that was fun and that existed within Star Wars, had the presence of Darth Vader but didn't have the Force, lightsabers, etc. But it's hard not to worry about this whole thing because, Gareth Edwards has been quoted recently saying like that one of the reasons he's not going to do Godzilla 2 is because after doing Godzilla and now this, he's kind of done with big studio blockbusters. So is that because he's not enjoying this process, and maybe he's not doing such a good job? I don't know. I have a lot of faith in Gareth Edwards to do a great version of this film. And I still have a lot of confidence the movie will actually be good. But there is, when I'm watching this movie in theaters now, there's still going to be that thought in my mind. Is it actually going to be bad? Or part of it going to be bad where I'm like, oh, this is, that's why they did the reshoots, or that's why they should have done the reshoots. Or, I don't know. It's hard not to have a little bit of doubt.
Okay, yes, maybe it doesn't eradicate everything, but okay, yeah, I've like you said earlier, Page Six got some things right. They got Alden Ehrenreich right, but that was May 5th, if I'm correct.
Somewhere around there, yeah.
All right. The very next day, the New York Times releases an entire profile of him with the title "The Man Who Would Be Han Solo," and you don't just whip one of those up in an evening.
No.
So I have a hard time believing that their prowess somehow learned about that before the New York Times did. I feel like that was a press release.
But the New York Times is the one that also made this Page Six article about the Disney, about those reshoots basically known. They were the ones that did like the first follow-up story and covered this whole thing again and brought a lot of attention to it.
But it seems like even Screen Rant and Making Star Wars already kind of cut out the idea that there was testing that went poorly, when in fact nobody's seen the movie but Bob Iger and Alan Horn.
Yeah. No, I don't think that there's been screenings, but the Page Six report didn't say there were fan screenings. They just said executives have seen it. And Bob Iger and Alan Horn are executives
Disney CEO and Disney
they're
marketing
high
chief.
up at Disney. Like they would obviously have seen a cut of the film. So do I? It's a lot of weird things, because do I think Disney would interfere and be like, listen, this doesn't fit? Yes, I do. I think I can't remember if it was EW or Making Star Wars or which report said it, because there's so many. But one of them was saying that Disney knows that there's a lot of pressure on them to deliver a great movie after how well received The Force Awakens was, because if people go see another Star Wars movie and it's not as good and they don't enjoy it as much, then that's going to possibly dampen the excitement for Star Wars 8, which they definitely don't want. And this is this. I mean, this could be almost kind of premature to talk about. I think because I do. I'm not. This has nothing to do with the fact that they're reshooting. If it was just that there were reshoots, I wouldn't care. But the same thing happened with Suicide Squad when it was like the reports come out like, okay, like Suicide Squad's getting reshoots to make it funnier and stuff, and everybody freaked out.
Okay, sure.
Is that the same case? We have no idea because we haven't seen either one.
But it's in context of Batman versus Superman, and we all saw Batman versus Superman, and we all had one major complaint of like it was hopeless and almost unnecessarily dark. And then we hear Suicide Squad's adding jokes and more humor, which we kind of thought was already, ingrained into that movie.
Yeah.
So that makes you think. But this is coming from a completely different place, from Star Wars having a lot of, hope and fun and joy and all that jazz. And then Episode 7 being the ultimate, the holy grail of what Star Wars probably represents to 2-3 generations of people. And then they're going to take it a different direction, and then only to veer it back towards where it's been for 40 years. I don't like that. And I think Bob Iger and everyone at Disney and Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy, had that in mind when they set out to do this. So I think that they know that the episodes are for the broad audience, and these are for the people that wanted to see a different Star Wars worldview.
Yeah. So the one thing with that is, like, yes, the Star Wars universe has a very established tone. So is a war film set in Star Wars, even though a lot of people are looking forward to it, is that something that the general audience is going to accept? I don't know. And since, according to the reports, that it is going to, end about 10 minutes before A New Hope, and that maybe some of the reshoots are to involve Alden Ehrenreich as young Han Solo, which is, I'm sure, a definite.
That's not true.
I'm sure it's happening. But since it is, lining up, basically you'll see this movie, and by the time the credits are done rolling, there will be the right amount of time will have passed for A New Hope to start. So you have to kind of match tones a little bit.
But do you, though? I mean,
personally, I don't think you have to, but I mean, if the events of this film literally play directly into the very first beginning of A New Hope, and then it's a drastic tone shift, wouldn't that feel off?
All right. Well, think of it in terms of the entire franchise, not just A New Hope.
Okay.
Star Wars, like we said, for the the hardcore fans. Revenge of the Sith ends in a dark place. Obi-Wan and Yoda are in exile. Padme is dead, and Anakin Skywalker has become Darth Vader, and they've begun building the Death Star.
Yeah.
That's a pretty dark ending for a Star Wars movie, in retrospect. So if it ends in a dark place, and the next 18 years, would you say? Probably. I think 18 to 22 years is the timeline between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. You have that time frame to make a darker Star Wars movie, because that's a period that Obi-Wan, even in A New Hope, calls the Dark Ages.
Yeah.
So if it's dark through all the lead up to A New Hope, then the New Hope shines even brighter as hope.
Yeah. But it's also, the reason that the gap, that the tone shift between 3 and 4 doesn't seem as vast, is because there is that long stretch of time left between them. Whereas if you told me that the gritty war film was taking place right after Episode 3 and the events that played out in that, then I could maybe buy it. But if you're leading right in Episode 4 and a movie all about hope and these 3 unlikely heroes of sorts saving the galaxy,
sure,
does that fit? And these are questions we can't really answer. I mean, this is all just like speculation and our kind of opinions on depending on who you believe and stuff. And I'm not sure I can't go to any of these articles and be like, I believe this person the most. I think there's a bit of truth in all of these reports. which is why there is that little bit of doubt. And I'm not saying like I think this movie is all of a sudden going to fall apart. Like
No, it's not.
I still think it's going to be a great movie, and I'm going to enjoy it tremendously. But there's still that bit of doubt, and I don't think I could forget about it in a week. But because it's Star Wars and it's the most talked about franchise, this once the next trailer comes out, reshoot talk's going to pop back up. So I wonder if that stuff was part of reshoots or not.
I don't think that. I don't.
I think
it's
it's just going to keep popping up.
But I mean, the Force TFA, the Force Awakens had reshoots, and some of the most iconic scenes that no one talked about were part of reshoots. Yeah, and no one had a problem with it.
It's true.
So this just sounds like, and I don't mean to. It just feels like clickbait articles capitalizing on something that nobody thought was going to happen. Yeah, I think I don't mean to throw stones at people's work, and I'm sure there's some really great investigations that went into this, but it all of this together just doesn't feel like a story. Mm-hmm. But I'm coming from the view of a defensive fan of Star Wars of my entire life, so maybe I'm a little bit biased.
No, I think all your opinions are valid. I think you are of the opinion that the reports around the reshoots and that they are bad is not true. Mm-hmm. And I'm of the opinion that maybe there are bits of it that are true. And I think that's the only difference. We are both looking forward to this movie. We're both going to be there opening night. And I think we are both going to love this movie. And I think the vast majority of this audience is going to love it. So once this movie comes out, nobody's going to talk about reshoots. But I think it's going to be one of those continuing topics that keeps popping up for the next 6 months until we have to see the movie. Once reshoots wrap, people talk about it again. Maybe once a new trailer comes out, talk about it again. As you get closer and get more footage, I think there's just going to be continuous talks. Once the press tour starts, report's going to ask everybody involved about, what were reshoots like? Mm-hmm. Are they, did people actually hate the movie like they said? Then, of course, they're just going to say no. But I think that this just opens up a lot of stuff that I don't want to have to talk about with Star Wars, and that it's going to be bad because because reshoots do not automatically make a movie bad. Made that clear. So I'm not less excited for Rogue One because they're reshooting
or script changes for that matter.
Yeah, I think just the amount of conflicting reports around the reshoots. That's what's troubling because you just don't know who to believe. So if there was one report that said one thing and everybody was like, okay, yeah, it's true. Then you can accept it and be like, okay, if they actually did not like it and everybody was like, okay, the reshoots are happening because Disney didn't like it, then they could say, I would be like, okay, well, at least Disney's trying to fix it. Like they understand that they have a high standard to live up to and they're trying to fix it and make sure everybody loves it. But if the tone was, okay, well, they're doing reshoots only to make a couple of scenes that much better or to include a Han Solo cameo or something, I would be like, yeah, that sounds great. But I think just because there's so much unknown with all these reports, that's what gives me the doubt because I just don't know what to believe.
Well, I think that's what opened the floodgates because we had two conflicting reports of what was happening. And, And the part I hate about this, obviously, is that there's only one Disney spokesperson on record, and that was it, and everything else is just anonymous. So,
who was the one on record?
It was just a spokesperson saying that they were committed to making the best film possible.
Oh, yeah. But it's still anonymous. It's just you can say, yeah, I work for Disney.
I guess that's true.
So, that's it. That was a good discussion about the Rogue One reshoots. I'm sure this will come up again.
I'm sure it'll play out in the next the coming
and
months.
when we do a Rogue One preview episode, maybe we'll talk about it again. Hopefully not, but it's a topic that will probably have to be discussed.
We're looking for the new trailer around the Star Wars Celebration, July 16th.
Yep.
Yeah. So
The way that I think the EW article ended
with that actual
with like once just give us time. Like once you guys see what we're gonna bring to Star Wars Celebration, you guys are gonna lose your minds. I'm like, okay, we're getting a trailer and Vader's gonna be in it, and then everybody's gonna be like, "Oh, Vader!"
Yeah,
and then nobody's gonna care.
Sure. And I almost wonder if that is a part of any of it. I know they said only cockpit scenes, but if Vader was,
it could be more Vader.
And
that's not a bad thing.
No, it's not. So
especially Vader in his prime, which we haven't seen. So lots of things to talk about. Let us know what you think about the Rogue One reshoots, all the other news we talked about this week, because that's the end of our episode.
Mm-hmm.
So during our time away, tell us everything, all your thoughts on everything we covered by tweeting us at Friends and Film, or you can comment in the YouTube video if you're watching on YouTube. But if you follow us on Twitter at Friends and Film, you'll receive updates on the podcast, movie news, and more. So that's where you'll see what stories we're going to talk about. You can ask us questions about all the stuff everything we've retweeted or shared. We're probably going to cover that week unless we just have to cut it for for time reasons or whatever. But you can follow me personally on Twitter at Coops_hoops.
And if you would like to hear more about what I've got to say, you can follow me at Straley Strong on Twitter.
Yeah, and if you are listening to this on YouTube, SoundCloud, or iTunes, be sure to subscribe, like, share, give us a thumbs up. And if you like what you heard, you should head over to iTunes and give us a 5-star review, because that'd help us out tremendously, let more people find us easier by suggestions and searches and whatnot. Thanks again for tuning into the Friends of Film podcast. Josh?
Hey, Internet. Thank you for stopping by.
And be sure to watch some new movies before we return next week with a review of Warcraft.